Welcome back to our now annual tradition where we count down our 5 favorites in independent movies, independent books, and independent albums. I have an incredible group with me to give us their 5 along with my 5 as we explore the very best in indie artistry in 2022. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy This Year in Indies. Here's your host, Joe Compton. "2022, where did you go?" Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it's the end of the year, everybody. Welcome to This Year in Indies. Yes, it is our annual tradition now. We're very, very excited to be giving you our picks for the best of the best. And it's been a wonderful year. A lot of things have been happening, and I want to talk a little bit right off the top about what I've kind of experienced this year personally in terms of the artistry that I've, you know, absorbed and everything. And I'll let everybody else talk about it too. But for me, this year has been really interesting in the fact that we've gotten a ton of revivals, we've gotten a ton of returns, we've gotten a ton of reissues. And amongst all of that, we've gotten this interesting, I think, turn that has happened based upon what we've experienced over the last couple of years. And I think our lists all reflect that in some way, somehow. There is some lightheartedness to what we've experienced, that we've joked the last couple of years on this program, especially what a dumpster fire of a year 2021 and 2020 were. JD remembers those dumpster fire graphics very fondly. I'm sure everybody watching does too. And this year was kind of like almost a phoenix in a lot of ways for me personally. I felt like there was a lot more I absorbed, and I felt very comfortable in that respect of, this was a hard year to pick just 5 on everything, and a hard year to pick 10 ultimately when you see the blogs that I put out. There's more to come from me in terms of the blogging for books and movies as well. And so if you don't see your name here today, don't fret. You may see it in print down the road. But that being said, welcome to This Year in Indies. And look at this beautiful, beautiful group we have. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited to have I'm honored and privileged to have the beautiful people that I have here. So let me do this. Sorry, everybody. This just hasn't worked out very well this morning. All right, there we go. This Year in Indies 2022. It's on fire. See what I did there? All right. And if you could see the background, which is not at all legible because of the 4 of us are paneling it, there is like a phoenix rising from the ashes at the bottom. There's a little bit of ash right there. You can see around JD and Ron and everybody. All right. Enough of that bullshit. All right. There's a ton of people in the chat. This is always a very popular show, so we're very happy to have everybody, and we'll get to your comments and everything in a moment. But first and foremost, let's have everybody introduce themselves. Go ahead, Miss Dell. You start us off.
Hey, guys. So I have a little bit of delay on my end today. I don't know why, but I'm going to blame the flu since it's been hanging around my house this week. I'm Madilynn Dale. You can kind of see my website down here today, thechaptergoddess.com. I have a blog. I have books, obviously. I'm also a reader, so check it out. I'm excited to share my thoughts on some books that I've read this year. So
awesome. We're excited to have you as you do some kung fu theater for us with your mouth moving and nothing coming out.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Mr. Villar.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I write science fiction, fantasy, humor. I have a couple shows that I do here on the GoIndieNow network. And tomorrow is the season finale of Mean Reviews. So I hope everybody will join at 5 p.m. Pacific tomorrow.
No stars given.
Yeah,
Which is going to be the complete opposite of this show today.
we shall see.
All right. Maybe we'll get a sneak preview of Mean Reviews today. All right, Mr. Estrada.
Greetings, fellow humans, and I hope that you have your cup of Go Indie handy. I'm the resident Puerto Rican indie author who now lives in Atlanta because that makes sense. I am saying cheers to the year with some beer-themed socks.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
And as always, I'm also ready with my banana because I am the banana secret agent. I'm an independent author. I write in multiple genres. I've got 19 books out. 2022 will have more books out. And in this channel, I've participated in several panels. I think I hosted one, or was it 2 shows, Joe? I'm not sure. Wasn't as active this year as other years, but hopefully 2023 is going to be a lot more active. There's a lot to share. There's a lot of indie goodness to share across the genres, across the arts, and I'm always happy to connect people to either a good game, a good album, or a good book.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So just to let everybody know, I know you guys are all very active in the chat, and I really appreciate that. And I want to make sure that you are all heard and seen. But today's a little different because we do have to power through a lot. So I'm going to be periodically stopping for chat, but just bear with us. Please do not. I'm not discouraging you from commenting. Please do comment as you hear things, and I will run them through. But just know that today's a little bit different in that respect. And we want your interaction. We definitely do. But we have a lot to cover, and we don't want to be here till dawn's early light. So we don't want to be here till 2023. Let's put it that way. So that being said, breaking the fourth wall. Hello, everybody. Another breaking the fourth wall. AF Stewart's here. Tales by Bob is here. AL Mangel's here. We love all of those. And JD Estrada breaking the fourth wall. Mr. David Green. And as JD said, nice to have you all. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Oh, it is now. And you know what? I have 2 people breaking the fourth wall, and neither of you could mention to hit the like button.
Oh.
Well, we save that for the end. Should we do it now?
Absolutely. Push that like button, guys.
You can push it, you can press it, you can massage it, you can lick it if it works for you. Just do it.
I came here to hear Ron's top 5 veggies he grew this year.
I have that list prepared. I'm just saying.
He does have it, yes. And I grow avocado, starfruit. See what you've started, Bob? All right. You guys have a fun group, but thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you for being here. It's nice to have you here, sir. Sakatumi for life. Have to reshare the latest post, Sandy. Yep. So happy you're all chatting and leaving comments. We can see them, so keep them coming. Also hit that like. Thank you, Maddie. I appreciate that. Yeah, all right. So let's get to the fun, shall we? And excitement. Just for the sake of this conversation, and I'm not just. Well, let's do this instead. How about that? Just so that I have a clear view of who I'm speaking to.
Madeline's got demoted down to my level.
Now you can brand it, baby.
Now you're branded. Now you can. But I'll do this. I'll take this.
I'm sorry, Maddie.
Oh, hey, it's good.
Down here.
You're good.
We're going to discuss indie albums to start the conversation off. And one of the common themes this year, which is exciting for me, I love it when we all tend to like something together. It's very nice. But both on the indie album front and the indie book front, we're going to talk about a book that is common. It may not fall in the same place in our lists. In fact, it doesn't. For both of these, both of these. For me, this album that we're going to talk about first falls 4th on my list. For JD, it falls 3rd on his list. And the album that we're referring to, that we're going to speak about right off the bat, is a return of a band that hasn't put out an album in nearly 20 years. And they bring us this goodness. And it's Stabbing Westward with one of the greatest covers I've ever seen on an album. Holy crap, is that amazing.
Indeed.
It's called Chasing Ghosts. and it is the return of the emo electronica. I mean, this is what makes this album so good for me, is that there is so many things that Stabbing Westward has done over the years, and this album brings a lot of that to the forefront. But it also brings, for me, JD, a level of maturity that I don't think we've seen from this band, a depth that we haven't seen from this band before, and it's really interesting to me because I think it's one of those things that uh, I think has always been missing for me with Stabbing Westward. And poor Stabbing Westward, they got buried by the times. I mean, this is they were 9 Inch Nails before 9 Inch Nails. They were out there, during the time of Rammstein's reign and Ministry and all of these, and they got buried by all of that. And it's unfortunate, but but I come to find that there is a very rabid Stabbing Westward fan base.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too. But this album really shines for me in the idea that it has so much depth and so much maturity. And it's really great to see. I mean, it makes me happy because I put out a book every 4 years, and I feel like I mature every time I put out a book. So maybe I need to wait another. I know Maddie's about to strangle me. Maybe I need to wait another 15 years before I put out another.
No, don't be Tool. Don't be Tool. Please.
But I'm curious your thoughts, Mr. Estrada, on this and what you think, because this was on your list as well. And give us your favorite song, and I'll give you mine off of the album as well.
I got to look for the track listing because
you want me to go first on the favorite track? Because I know mine right off the bat. So.
Go for it, because I would have to again go for it, and I'll tell you why it's hard for me to pick.
Okay, so for me, my favorite track is "Damaged Goods." I think it's the most Stabbing Westward song on the album of Stabbing Westward. It is 9 Inch Nails-esque in a lot of respects, and here's the cool thing about this album that I think is very interesting. It's not a concept album. I'm pretty sure it's not. I didn't read too deep into it, but I'm pretty sure it's not. But they do this interesting thing where they've kind of captured. If you all have ever run a playlist on Spotify or any music, what happens is the last 5 seconds fade out so that the first 5 seconds of the next song come in. And Stabbing Westward does this on their album. And what is interesting to me about Damaged Goods is it goes into the next song, which I believe is Choices, if I'm not mistaken. And that has like this weird Depeche Mode start. And so it's like they go from this one variant
it's cold.
of music.
It's cold. It goes from Damaged Goods to Cold.
Yeah, Cold. There you go. And that is like, it's got this weird Depeche Mode start, and then it goes into like this like Ministry rocking. They really know how to blend, and they blend it so seamlessly. But Damaged Goods is like, that's a staple. I think probably every Stabbing Westward fan is probably stabbing at me, going, "Oh, you picked the most commercial." But to me, that was the best song. So
I agree. I had to listen to a couple of the tracks, and I heard that one. And what makes that one memorable is those electronica flourishes.
Mm-hmm.
Because Stabbing Westward did not come before 9 Inch Nails. Actually, they came like in the mid 90s. 9 Inch Nails has been at this since the 80s, the late 80s, and they were between them and Ministry, they're the ones who paved the way for this genre. Industrial rock, I've always been a fan of industrial rock, and I've always found that there's not that many great bands. Stabbing Westward in their heyday with Wither, Blister, Burn, and Peel. That's the album that most people know. I also know them because on the Clerks album, they have a track that is awesome, and I forgot the name, but their track on that soundtrack is fantastic. We didn't hear from them for a long time because Christopher Hall, I think that's the name of the lead singer, he had a side band called The Dreaming. The thing with Stabbing Westward is that it's a perfect band for Hot Topic and Skechers. But it's the ones that for like a 40-plus-year-old, you're gonna go and hey, I like that song, I like that band. It's not like Good Charlotte or something that is. There's a lot of energy here, and what you hinted at, or what you mentioned about maturity. There's 10 tracks to this album, so there's no filler, there's no fluff, and the pitfalls that they've fallen into before, you don't get any of that. You just get a really solid top to bottom album, and I'm such a huge fan when that happens. their last album was actually self-titled, and it's actually hard to come by. It's not on most streaming services because it was from Warner or I don't know who. I don't mind that album, but it is super commercial, and that the publisher was like, no, you have to play this, and they're not in it. In this album, they're in it to win it. And I'm like, wow, Stepping Westward released something. And when I heard it, it might be their best and most solid work. It's not going to be to the level of the album that I mentioned.
You feel like they might have taken this hiatus because they soured from that experience of being with a major label?
Two of my choices on my list are because they soured on that.
Me too.
And their biggest hit is Shame. It's a song that as soon as you hear, you're gonna go like, oh, how many soundtracks was that on? And I don't know. It's when you see a boxer retire and then they come back like 3 years later, rejuvenated, refreshed, healed, and they come in and just like knock heads out. That's what this album feels like. And I've always been a fan, even for their less stellar work. And to see them come to that level of top form, I was like super pumped. And that's why I insisted. I was like, dude, give it a listen. You're like, do they need the love? And I'm like, yeah, because a lot of people forgot how good this band is.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you made me listen to this, and you held me down and put your knee in my back and said, listen. And no. But seriously, this was really a great find. And yes, it is very indie. They have less fans than some of these bands on my list right now. So if you don't know Stabbing Westward and that song from the Clerks as well, you'll recognize it as soon as you hear it. But you'll recognize the sound too. And if you're a Nine Inch Nails fan, if you're a Ministry fan, if you're a Rammstein fan, I think you can't go wrong with Stabbing Westward.
Agreed.
Perfect gateway drug for you in that respect. All right, JD, you want to go through your first pick here on number 5 with Scream Theater?
No, that's actually number 1.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yeah.
So I went the opposite way. So this would be number 5 then?
That would be number 5.
Okay, so sorry everybody, you're just gonna have to get over the fact that I didn't number.
You just gave the number 1 away.
Yeah.
Okay, very curious of my list is that I got 2 artists from New Zealand, 1 from Australia, 1 from Puerto Rico, and 1 from the US. Aldous Harding, I recently discovered, as in like 2.5 months ago, from a Des concert. She's weird and her weird, and she's very intense to the just because it looks like she's gonna throw up, and she's just giving it her all with everything. This album is good. It's not her best work, but it's also good, and it's quirky, and it grows on you. It's super odd and almost folksy, almost has flares of a little bit of Eels, a little bit of Karen O and people like that. If you don't know who Karen O is, the soundtrack for Where the Wild Things Are is the best or most accessible example that I can give you. Just very, very peculiar and almost like a light version of Fiona Apple's last album. I was really impressed with it, and I really wanted to bring it to the forefront so that people can give her body of work, a chance, because she's an interesting cat.
Nice. So my number 5 for 2022 is exactly what we were just talking about. It's a band that had a major label deal in the 90s and went away for a while. And he actually became a published author. I spoke to him on this program about his publishing, his book, and about his band. And for me, the number 5 album of 2022 is The Uninvited's Broken Promised Land. And I'm going to this is Americana fare with a nice little rocking twist. So if you think about Huey Lewis turned up to 15 with a little bit of the Eagles mixed in, you'll get a really great road trip journey for this band. This band matured very, very well. There's incredible musicianship. I mean, the two brothers, the Taylor brothers, who are the core of this band, really explore a lot of what they were feeling, the desperate feeling that they had of longing for success and then realizing that they always had it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment and a lot of great self-reflection here, and it's very mature for them as well. This is not the jokey, crazy band that if you know Uninvited, and if you want to check out their stuff, they have a lot of like very fun stuff. They're a party band is what they used to describe themselves as, and they still are live. They're still fantastic live. I just saw them. Very, very good band live. And they still do have a little bit of those elements on this album, but it's not as prevalent. There's a lot of maturity. There's a lot of really great sentiment. And I think if you're a Johnny Cash guy, an Eagles guy, uh, those kind of journeys, Bob Dylan, I think you're gonna find something. But keep in mind that we're talking about the electronic version of these bands. The higher frequency, the bigger riffs, the stronger drums and bass, which are very prevalent here. And the guitar work is absolutely stellar. Probably the best guitar work on my list. But that's my number 5, The Uninvited with Broken Promised Land. Very, very good stuff there. All right, JD, you're number 4, so I gotta go backwards. So
Yes.
you're number 4.
Number 4 is Avandra, and they actually released this in November. And try to imagine for me to just drop an album that I've listened to for less than a month. As soon as I heard it, it was recommended to me by the drummer for another Puerto Rican metal band called Taboo. David McCloskey is one of the best drummers I've ever seen live. Super nice guy. And in terms of double pedals, I think he's one of the best guys I've ever seen do it live. And he helped produce, I'm not sure of the album, but I do know that some of the videos for this band. And when he drops it, I'm like, okay, I got to check it out. And this album hits you in the face. I was looking for something. Joe was like, man, there's not. All my albums are like, soft, and I'm all for female power, but I need some metal. And then I found this one. I was like, check this out.
Yeah.
For me, my only caveat for any metal band is I like when they scream, and I like when they sing. I'm not a big fan with I'm not a big fan of that all the time. And it's always funny when people say, yeah, these lyrics mean so much to me. This touches this is part of my soul. And it's like whatever, dude. So in this band, when he sings, it actually sounds like John Mayer decided to sing in a prog metal band. It's a bit like that. And I don't say it as a diss. I say it because that's the tone that I get. When they go with the I'm not a huge fan of that, but it never lasts too long. Music wise, damn, these guys are good. And I'm impressed across the board. Drums, guitars specifically, and bass, everyone's on point. And when I see a good metal band drop a new album, because sometimes it's few and far between with many bands, and maybe they're top heavy or they're bottom heavy, or they have a couple of standout tracks. When I hear an entire album that is good, I go like, dude, you got to check this out. And you really got to check these guys out in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Their tempo is very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very. If I had more time with them, they would have been breaking through here, either on honorable mentions or even on the list. But there was another metal band that I really, really enjoyed this year a little bit more. That just seems a little bit more polished. I think they need some time to mature a little bit, and I think they're really on the cusp of being something really good, though. They really have an interesting idea in the way. Like, it's funny you say John Mayer, because I was thinking, yeah, their lyrics are very, very introspective, but also very, very. I don't know how to put it. Like very, very introspective, but in your face introspective. So it's very interesting, and I really enjoyed listening to it. I agree, though. The growling was kind of uniquely put in weird spots too, which I think they'll figure that out.
It's not a deterrent, and it's not a huge turnoff. It's just the rest is so good that I go like, you don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, he sings cleanly quite well. So
exactly. Maybe it's the bass player. I'm not sure if they share vocal duties. I haven't checked the liner notes.
So they're kind of like Killswitch Engage in that respect a little bit. All right, so my number 4 was Stabbing Westward, so my number 3, we'll just go right to it, is Body Type. Everything is dangerous, but nothing's surprising is the name of the album. There is this revival going on right now, and it's very prevalent on my list, throughout my list from 10 to 1, of this English post-punk pop sound, like kind of think electronica or electric, electra, uh, uh, you know, to kind of uh, post Clash kind of stuff. And females are ruling the roost in that respect for me in this part of the industry. But the Body Type is this interesting band that really kind of has this kind of they have. I'm going to invoke Liz Fair a lot in these conversations today, but they kind of have this like Liz Fair mentality with this kind of. It sounds a lot like 80s new wave. So if you're interested in like if you like Missing Persons or the Eurythmics or bands like that, they have that kind of sound to them, that kind of rhythm to them, and that interesting catchy beat thing that new wave did a lot in the 80s. They kind of blend the 80s and 90s genre together. There's some spoken word in here and some of the lyrics, but the lyrics are powerful, and it's a very, very interesting album in that respect. And it is one of those albums that'll hook you and grab you and just keep you. And so it's a warm hug. And, I think it's just a brilliant, brilliant piece of work and great musicianship. So I'm very excited to hopefully you all check out Body Type and what they're doing. So, all right, JD, your number 3 was Stabbing Westward. So your number 2 is Jordan Rain.
Is Jordan Rain, another artist from New Zealand, and another artist that I've actually reviewed on this channel quite a few times. Why do I do that? Certain authors, artists, and bands need more love because they don't get it. And Jordan Rain is a special kind of special. She's goth folk or folk goth. I'm not sure which she leads with. And for me, she's an autobi artist, meaning that I've listened to her body of work so much that I'm pretty sure that I'm going to enjoy it and I'll just drop the coin. No problems with it. She's another person that's dealt with the industry and dealt with challenges. This is someone that was a touring musician, starving musician, had to get a day job. And I'm pretty sure she works programming video games. I'm not sure which projects she's worked on because I'm not into that aspect as much. I know what it is to need a day job to support your side hustle. But talent is just, galore. Chapter 0 just continues her body of work. Is it her best work? No. Is it good and solid? Hell yes. And to know that she do it all on her dime, all on herself, while having a day job, while going through a lot of health issues, because she's had a really rough 2.5 years. With the pandemic and everything, she's also had to deal with an autoimmune disorder that's hit her hard. She was doing a couple of shows, had to stop, started again, pacing herself, taking it slow. But it's someone who actually came back because of the fans, because people were so into her and rabid and enthusiastic that even if it's a small group, she's like, I got to keep doing this. And I'm so happy that she continues to do it because she's a special kind of special.
I agree. She's my musical hero. I follow her and I get her newsletter, and she's just amazing.
And she engages so much. When I bought an album that I got, she signed the album. I have it in my car. I don't have it here because I have it in my car and it gets regular play. That one was for Bardo. And with in the liner notes, there's a note. On the CD, there's a note, and in the package, there was a note. So just someone that's very giving, and I'm always going to be pro that.
Nice, awesome. So my number 2, I always like to have a departure on my list, something that I listen to that is not normally me, but this is very unusual for me. This is a softer R&B album. It's by a band called Sudan Archives, and it's Natural Brown Prom Queen. Nice. And this is very hip hop, very R&B. And what I love about this album is it has this unrelenting pursuit of truth on it, and it's so powerful. And it is one of those albums, I think, for writers out there, It is one of those albums you put on in the background and just get this kind of like meditative state from it. The sampling on it is brilliant. It is so well orchestrated and so well put together. And I just every time I'm trying to be creative, it's the album I go to now that I've put on every time since then. And it's just so amazing in that respect. And then of course she starts singing and rapping, and I kind of lose my train of thought because I'm going along with it and rapping and singing with her. But it's very, very good. Check out Sudan Archives. Natural Brown Prom Queen, my number 2 album of 2022. And that leads us to the big moment they've already spoiled for everybody for James. Number 1 is Scream Feeders, 5 Rooms.
Scream Feeder.
Another band that JD turned me on to this year.
Definitely another oldie but goodie for me. First off, before I get into my spiel, I did want to show that I'm having Twin Peaks tea. This is
Nice.
a small nod to Angelo Badalamenti, who passed away this week. If you don't know his music and his body of work, but you've seen David Lynch's films, you do know his music and his body of work. By all means, check his albums. He's got amazing music. My favorite is actually not Twin Peaks and not Blue Velvet. It is Lost Highway. His work there. His work across the board is stellar. He was 85 years young, but still a huge loss in the music world. And this year has taken way too many nice people.
I have to say, my favorite has to be A Straight Story. I think he does amazing work on A Straight Story.
He was okay. So why do I bring Angelo up? Apart from the tribute and that he passed away this week, I learned about his music because of a movie. I learned about Aldous Harding because I watched an NPR Tiny Desk concert. I learned about Avandra because a drummer whom I respect, admire, and appreciate as a human and as a friend recommended it. I discovered Stabbing Westward because I stayed up late watching 120 Minutes when I was a teen. I discovered Jordan Rain because a fellow author from New Zealand recommended her. And I discovered Scream Theater from watching bodyboarding videos. Bodyboarding videos are notorious for just giving me so much good music. I discovered Grip Inc. Thanks to them. The first time that I heard Incubus was in a No Friends video, which was the song Favorite Things. I heard that at the same time that I heard the tour that they were on with Korn. I forget the name of that session, but Scream Theater was always a highlight for me. And I forgot about the band, and I was like, man, what was the name about that band? And then I look them up, and then I find the body of work. And in 2021, the song that I played the most was actually by Scream Theater, which is the song Stopless. Stopless is one of my favorite songs, period. And, when you have 70, 80 plays of one song with the amount of music that I listen to, which is always upwards of 60,000 minutes, and I don't know how many artists, and I don't know how many genres, and I don't know how many countries, that's something special. I saw that they were going to release this album, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to listen to it. And my first reaction was like, it's okay. It has a couple of good tracks. Man, I really wish I liked this album more. I listened to it a second time, and I'm like, I kind of like this album more. I listened to it a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth time, and I was like, this album is good. And it's been a while since I had an album that grew on me. And I always love when that happens. I love when I have that pivot, that I go from saying something's all right to saying, I love this. Nowadays, everyone, since they have music so easily accessible, they're music connoisseurs and they listen to I don't know how many artists, but they don't pay attention to an album. This is an album that you have to pay attention to. There's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of artistry. And these people have been through the ringer with record labels in Australia. Just gotten hit hard to the point that they've been on the verge of quitting I don't know how many times, and I'm just so happy that they keep going for it and keep pushing. I also love the musical dynamics between the guitar and the bass and the different shared vocals. Just such a good band, and again, it's an album that I like more every time that I hear it. It's been a while since I had that. It's a very special experience. And, my invitation for anything that I recommend or anything that you listen and you find, please listen to it more than once. Listen to it 3 times. See if there's something special there, because odds are that just because you have access to a lot of things, you're going to miss out on something that can become a favorite just because you have so much. We live in times of excess in terms of books, in terms of movies, in terms of music, in terms of video games, in terms of everything. When you find a favorite, pay attention and tell someone else. A lot of people will go like, who the hell are these people? And that's the intention of what we do with these lists, to shine a light on people that are genuine, are cool, are generous with their fans, are extremely talented, and are underappreciated. And if I can get one person to listen to any of these 5 albums, I did my job for the year.
Nice. So that being said, my number 1 is no surprise to JD. And if you know me, probably no surprise, because I've been playing them nonstop ever since. And this is unusual for me because it's a band that I just discovered like 2 months ago, even though this album's been out for like 7 months. And I didn't realize also that they were TikTok famous. And also they were covered by probably the most famous artist on the planet already. And they hadn't even had an album yet when that happened. And when I sent this to JD for the first time, you remember what I said, JD, about how I described this band?
It was Liz Phair meets L7.
Yeah, it was Liz Phair. If Liz Phair had balls and L7 went acoustic,
Yeah.
you would get Wet Leg and their self-titled debut, Wet Leg.
I'm going to interrupt you briefly. I 2 people from the place that I work at now actually mentioned this band in different conversations, in different contexts, in different groups. And I'm like, I know that band.
This is 2 young ladies from a part of England that is, I think, like unheard of, where people don't go to die, they don't go to get famous. If you've been on TikTok, you've heard their song "Chaise Long," and you've also heard it probably if you're like a pop fan, because Harry Styles covered it, and he did it live and it blew up. But this band is so much more. There's so much depth to this album. I really highly recommend. I mean, I know people probably, if you heard it on TikTok or you heard Harry Styles do it, you're probably dismissive of it, and rightfully so. You should be in a lot of respects. This is not. No offense to this artist, but this is not Space Girl. This is an album that has a deeper connection. Your Mom, songs like Angelina. This is so deep and so interesting, and the deeper tracks on this album are what really draw me. I've not stopped listening to this band. I've been obsessed. I've watched the Tiny Desk. I've watched all of their concerts. I've listened to this band nonstop, and they are as good as it gets. I haven't felt really involved in an album like this since the JD first introduced me to the Idols. And this is just an amazing album. If you like post-punk pop, like I said, it's very I wish they would do the Lilith Fair now, because the Lilith Fair would just kick people right in the balls, instead of be this soft, like little rosy, happy, no more sweet romance. We're talking erotica, people. And this and what, we need a little sassy with our music, and Wet Leg will provide that for you. They're very gruff. They are very crass, and they do not apologize for it. And anybody who invokes Buffalo 66 in a song lyric deserves to be number 1 on my list. So Wet Leg. And yes, like everybody else who's ever reviewed this album and this band, I do not know the origin of the name of the band. I do not want to know the origin of the name of the band, even though I could probably guess it. But that being said, that was my favorite album of 2022. Wet Leg. All right. I'm just going to keep going. Wet Leg. All right. Anyway, that being said, all right, let's bring everybody in here. They've been waiting patiently to talk, and I know Ron's like, no, I haven't. I'm okay. you're muted, Ron. You're muted, dude. I can't.
I know. I didn't wait patiently. I commented like crazy.
Yeah, you guys were talking about gardens and stuff like that in the comments. everybody can go read that. I'm not going to post all of that.
And
on.
music. I talked about music.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
did.
did.
Not
You
what
did.
you
I
were
appreciate
talking about.
Yeah, I love it. And yes, and old people music, Ron. There's a lot of great old people music on my list and on JD's as well. So I think you'll really enjoy
That's
a
very
lot
nice
of that.
of you.
So we're going to talk about books now, everybody. The moment you all been waiting for. I know you've been waiting patiently. And yeah, we're probably going to go about an hour and a half, just so everybody knows. Sorry about that, but because we've got 15 books to go over. Well, 14, because the first one we all agree on, and are very. It made all three of our lists. This book, and it made it in various spots. And we'll talk about the spots when we get to it on the countdown. But the book that really, I mean, technically, it's really the indie book of 2022 because we all agreed on it. I mean, but I don't want to give that guy a big head because he's a Man United fan, and I tried very hard to keep a Man United fan off of my list, but I could not do it because this book is fucking amazing. It is Path of War by David Green. David Green made all three of our lists, and you guys want to talk because I've talked enough already. Tell us what your thoughts are on Path of War.
After you, Madilynn.
Okay, so this book, I read it in order. I kind of went on a little binge read and read the first book first, which I totally reached out to David because I wanted to cry and scream and everything at the end of the first book. But he reassured me that this character was coming back in the second book, and the way this person came back was totally not what I expected. Like, I hope there's more to come with that. But there was so much more in this story. The way the characters interacted, and it was told in multiple points of view that had great flow, plenty of climax moments. Like, there was never a dull moment. It kept my attention as a reader, and it will keep other readers' attention as well. It can be read as a standalone, easy to follow. He does kind of like backtrack to keep the readers up to date on what's going on, which really helped because, like, sometimes I'm forgetful about what happened in book one, and there's so much going on in this story that it's easy to just get lost in all the details, but he pulls you right back and keeps you in track. And the way the magic was used in this story was amazing. Like, there was just kind of like two different types of it. One was more of a corrupted version, which I'm kind of curious to see where he goes with that in book three. Because I'm not going to give any spoilers away about what happens with everything. But like, I was in love with some of these characters, and yeah. So sorry, that was just like,
No, that's
a lot.
great.
Well, I originally picked Path of War as a joke. I just wanted to be able to talk on the show about what an awful person David Green is.
Thank you.
As a comedian, in all seriousness, David Green may be the worst person on the planet. Top 3, definitely. So,
All right. What do you think of the book, though, Ron? Do you have anything?
I
to
did
add
love
about
it. I did love it, and I read it as soon as it came out because I had read
Yeah.
the first book in the series and enjoyed it, even though David is, I don't know, he is. I guess I would say he's much more proud of Path of War than the first one, than its predecessor. But I thought the first one was great too. So I mean, I'm a huge fantasy fan. There's a lot of fantasy on my list, but yeah, great book. I mean, to talk to him, you would think his writing would be shit, but really, it's great.
No.
It's great.
It's a great high fantasy read for high fantasy
Yeah,
like
definitely.
people. It's perfect. It fits straight into that category. There's a little bit of romance in there. It's not like heavy on the romance, kind of hints at it, but like also a huge focus on family ties. So
There's two things that really struck me right off the bat with this book that I did not read the first book, by the way, everybody. So you're talking to a guy who picked this book up and enjoyed it without needing the first book because he does. Okay, I'm going to mention 3 things because it's something that Madilynn already mentioned, which is that he recaps certain things, elements in the book that I felt like I was mentioning to the guys off the air that I felt like I knew the first book because those little recaps I felt were kind of nods to the first book and giving you some insight into the first book, which I thought was very brilliantly done. But the thing I liked getting past the prologue, because I think the prologue, just to be semi-critical, it wasn't needed. You didn't need that prologue in the book, in my personal opinion, because I think from chapter 1, this book hums. It just goes right into a battle and just kicks you right in the teeth, and it's cinematic as all get out. I was vividly picturing everything and anything. But the cool thing about this book that I really loved the most was the internal monologues of all these characters. I thought that was such a neat little touch, because you get to this moment, because war is heck, and you get to this moment where they're dealing with it, and you're learning what they're dealing with and how they're dealing with it and what they really think, even though they're saying something differently in the dialogue. And I thought that was a really neat little human touch that I don't get often with fantasy. I haven't gotten it since Dune, really. I think Dune is the first book that I ever saw do that, and I think they do that very well here as well. That David does that very well here, and I think also I love the female characters in this book. I think, if you didn't know they were female, you would swear to God they would be chewing tobacco and spitting on your boots. I mean, and they're really interesting, but they're also very feminine, which I really appreciated as well. There's just so much really good layers in this book. It takes you on a journey, and boy, does it kick you right in the balls at the end. And you're going, what the hell, man? And I'm really looking forward to book 3. I think this is a really amazing book. And
whoever he stole this shit from was very talented.
Whoever you plagiarized, David, congratulations, you did it with perfection.
We'll look forward to the lawsuit.
Yeah, it's a very good book. We'll find out where it is on our list. All right. So obviously for Madilynn, that was number 5 on her list. So I'm going to go ahead and let Ron do his 5, and then I'll do my 5, and then we'll go to your 4. Okay, Madilynn?
I say that was actually not my number 5.
Was it not?
No.
What? Okay, so let's see. Look at. I'm so sorry. Do I? Oh shit! I don't think I have a graphic for your number 5. Then
my number 5 is actually. Do you want me to say it?
Go ahead.
So number 5 is actually "Roses and Ashes" by Anita Stewart.
Okay, so I had that as number 1. All right, we have to be a little bit more clearer when you give me your lists, everybody, to put the numbers next to them next time, because obviously I had them all backwards. I was reading in Chinese apparently and was going backwards. So
it happened.
Number 5 is Rosa. Sorry, Anita, I didn't mean to put the number 1 by you, but go. So talk a little bit about Roses and Ashes.
So Roses and Ashes, I don't read a lot of poetry, but I wanted to pick up Anita's stuff, as well as another author that's on my top 10 list. You can check that out of my blog later. But this collection really spoke to me, especially with the whole feminism and sexism stuff. It really, love and hate. I felt like really like Anita was pulling in the things that were happening in the world around me. I know it probably happens around her as a female in general. And it really called to me, and I felt like this needed to be really everybody needs to read this. There are things women deal with in their brains that she touches on in this stuff that I'm just I wish more people knew this. More of the male population need to understand, sometimes that's how our brain works. These are the thoughts and things and feelings we feel when certain events happen. And she has it put together and just formatted so well that it just kind of flows from start to finish. And it's easy to just pick up and keep going and lose yourself in her words.
Awesome. And yes, I thank you for still being Team Bob, Team Joe Bob. I appreciate that. But yeah, sorry about all that, guys. Look, we put this together, and this is all my fault. Nobody else's. So
dude, it's a lot. It's a lot. We don't hold it against you.
But I believe, Ron, your number 5 is correct. Am I right?
Yes, I now blame all the other panelists, because if you give the information correctly, it works out great. Yes, Evil Intent by Bobby Nash. So I love Bobby's stuff. I mean, he writes some great action and almost Pulp Fiction stuff.
Yeah.
And then knowing him, he's like the nicest guy, like the complete opposite of David Green. And to read his work, you know, he really captures some stuff that is so different than what he's like, and I very much enjoy that. But you know, and it's funny because the list of things I have read this year versus the things that are my favorites versus the list of things that were published this year that are my favorites is different because I'm not always aware of what year the stuff was published. So when I first started
Yeah.
creating my list, there was a different Bobby Nash book on it, but it came out in 2021 instead. So I had to readjust, and luckily I've read a lot of his stuff because
Well,
it's very easy to read. You know, kind of relaxing. You know, that I don't know.
it's a kind of a good getaway book, right? Good
Yeah,
getaway.
definitely. His stuff is real escapism. There we go.
Yeah.
And I usually use fantasy for that, but his stuff is also a great prescription for that.
Well, I vow to have you on every year you want to be on this show so that you won't forget what year it is and you can have the books of the year.
Sadly, I will need that help.
All right. So my number 5 for 2022, and I got mine correct, but it is a book that I was completely shocked by, a book that I was like, oh my God, I'll never look at this person the same way again. It's Black Flames by Madilynn Dale. And this book is amazing. This book is amazing. It is cinematic. It moves, it goes in different directions. And just when you think you're sitting down in a comfortable spot, she throws the shower scene at you and screws you all to hell and fucks you all up in the brain. And
this is the famous shower scene that we were talking about.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, there's such an amazing array of great writing in here, though. I mean, it's really. I love that I could put a soundtrack to what I'm reading, and Madelynn's was the easiest of the year for me to put a soundtrack to. Like I was telling her, there were certain songs that came to mind when I saw certain scenes and read certain scenes about stuff, and this book just it is really well done. I'm super excited to read Blue Flames, which comes out at the end of January, everybody. So you have some time to absorb Black Flames, and believe me, you're going to need it. You're going to need to fan yourself off a couple times. Yeah, it's just a brilliant book, and I'm really, really happy that I could get it on this list. So,
well, I want to talk about that book as well.
Go ahead.
I also read that book, and I was not excited to read it because it's not a genre that I normally pick. Plus, I didn't want to think of Madilynn differently after reading it, which I do. But I loved it as well. I was surprised because it really is not something I would have picked
I'm thinking you probably read it first before me, but because she didn't tell me what to expect when she handed it to me, so I was very shocked when I read what I read. So if she told you ahead of time, she must have learned her lesson about telling people.
No, I just pay attention when she talks about what she writes. You know, and
okay. So
and then
what
some
you're
of
saying
the
is I don't pay attention. Thanks, Rob.
Well, apparently not, because if you ever watched her on Indie Mayhem with her filthy answers to the questions.
Well, I had read Black Flames before Indie Mayhem started. So.
Oh, okay. I hadn't. So I was shocked at how filthy she was on the show. So I was prepared for the book, but I did love it. I thought it was incredibly unique. The cross genres that are in there, there's some real tropes, and yet I was like, I was very impressed with the inventiveness.
It's a paranormal romance with a little mix of erotica. It's a steamy paranormal romance is how I would describe the genre.
That's great. That's a great
Bob
description.
picked it up, even though she's Madilynn is his nemesis.
Yeah, he'll
Oh,
be able to give her like
urban
a
fantasy
0
romance
star
adventure.
review.
There you go. So there you go. But yeah, very good.
Anyway, almost made my list. I just wanted to say I did love the book, and congratulations to Madilynn.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Madelynn's number 4. We'll let her collect herself for a second. Is Daunting Darkness by Lily Lucchese, which you'll hear more about from me, not today, but on the blog. But talk a little bit about this cozy mystery for us at Madilynn.
So this is another thing. Like, I don't normally read a whole lot of cozy mysteries, but this one, because it has the paranormal aspect, I was like, okay, this is gonna be good. And holy cow, I was blown away. Ended up binge reading not only that book, but the next 2 she's got published after it. And Paige is the main character of this story. She's unique. She's neurodivergent. She's got anxiety and stuff. And I felt myself like relating to her because I also have anxiety and a whole bunch of other stuff too. But like the way she handles life and solves these mysteries, because first off, she does not know anything in the paranormal world exists until she's just pulled into it. And then she's stuck in it and she can't get her way out of it. She doesn't want to be in it at first, but she's the new paranormal detective in town. And there's a ton of people that start showing up to give her cases and stuff. And she's like, okay, I guess I'm going for this. But like the stuff she deals with in there's some things like I didn't even think about ever putting in a story. And the way this author really ties everything together, there's humor, there's realistic events. Like this person is just
There's a
very
nice red
relatable.
herring.
Yes, it was so good. And I can't wait for the next stuff she's got coming out. So.
I agree. I really enjoyed this book as well. I love Paige Papillon as a character. She's Sherlock Holmes. She's a girly version of Sherlock Holmes, really. She's like if you can imagine Sherlock Holmes with pink painted nails and
like gothic punk.
Yeah, I think you would really if you like Sherlock Holmes books, I think you'll really enjoy Paige. She's a very well thought out character. She's well rounded. But the other thing about this book that I think is very cool is the secondary characters and the foil and the antagonists are very well rounded too, which makes the mystery that much more engaging, in my personal opinion, and makes the red herring fun, even though you see it coming from a mile away. Which is fine because that's Cozy's. That's a thing that Cozy does. But it's really well done and it's really well written and really has something with this character, and I think it's going to be exciting. All right, Ron, you want to talk about your number 4 since he's here and we have to talk
here.
About it. Another one of our favorite humans.
Yeah, definitely. My next book is Praying the Day's Not Poison. The latest Howard Marsh novel by Bob Magoo. And I have read the entire series. I loved it. This one's great. I mean, as a meth user, it is nice to have
be represented.
Somebody from our community, be put forth as a hero. So I like that. I also like that the main character, who Bob calls the meth magician, is uses magic, and that the crystal meth empowers him, makes him stronger, encouraging children to go out and use meth in the hopes of gaining superpower. So I respect that because I'm not a big fan of other people's children. But yeah, it's very unique world. Great. I mean, it's just great stuff. I
one
love
of the
stories.
fun endings of the year for me in book reading.
And
just good ending.
He's begrudgingly heroic. He.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, there's so many cool things about this. His family, amazing. I mean, it's great stuff. I look forward to the next one.
Nice. Awesome.
And of course, Bob is an interesting character himself.
Yes, yeah. This does not surprise me. It came from his mind, at all. Um, uh, and it's very yeah. It's a very well written book. I really enjoyed it. And you'll hear more about that on my blog soon. My my number four was Path of War. So my number three book for 2022 is A Woman Unbecoming. Much like Anita's book that Madilynn talked about, I think this is a must read for every man and out there. I think I learned so much about this is a book. This is an anthology that was put together by Rachel Brune and Carol Gizander. It is from Cronin Girls Press. They put it out. It's a charity anthology to talk about reproductive healthcare rights. There's some interesting horror stories in here. There's some interesting retrospective poetry in here. The stories are. This is such a well-designed anthology in that the stories kind of go hand in hand, and they go from short to long to short, and very, very well thought out in the way it's laid out. But this book really just this is the one book this year that I had to sit with after reading it for a few hours and just reflect on what a problem I've become as a man. Because I'm just kidding. No, but no, but seriously though, it really made me like applaud. It's one of those books that I was like, yeah, that's yeah. And it's really nicely done. Some incredible authors in this book that you would recognize from their work from previous things that they've done, like Lee Murray, for example. And it's just it's well designed, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. And I think it's a must read for men out there for sure, and for anybody who it feels like this year has kind of abandoned them a little bit. I think this is a good book for that, and you'll get some camaraderie out of it. I think in a weird, unique way. And so that is my number four. Hopefully, I got Madelynn's number three right since it's in the middle. It shouldn't be wrong, but it's I Let You Fall by Sarah Downing. Is that right, Madilynn?
It is. It is.
So talk about this book for us.
So, holy cow. This one was an emotional roller coaster. The main character is in an accident and is put in a coma. But while she's in a coma, she has this out-of-body experience where she's kind of like an angel and is able to go around and help people, but she meets and falls in love with another person that's having an out-of-body experience like her. But there's a lot of death and heartache, and it's just loss and broken family ties, and it just literally all over the place. I mean, it still has a really good ending, but holy cow, this one tugged at my heart, and I found myself crying or wanting to throw my phone against the wall because I was reading it on ebook, and it just the main character in it was amazing. She had to relearn who she was in her out-of-body experience, determine what she really wanted in life, but then she had all of her memories taken away later in the story. So she had to do it again. And it happens like that a few times, and it's just, wow. This book, it just tore my heart out and almost stomped on it. But I mean, you want books like that leave that impression on you. And this author definitely did that. So
Nice. Awesome. All right, Ron, your number three, Staff of Chaos.
It is by J.F. Posthumous, who, by the way, has the coolest real last name for fitting the type of writing she does. I mean, I didn't even believe her that was her last name. I thought for sure that was a pen name. But the whole series is awesome. Well, like all of the books I picked, they're all series, and it's just the most current book in the series. But this entire series, Staff of Chaos is the third book in the Lady of Death series. In Lady of Death, she's a necromancer. That's why Posthumous is so great as a last name. But great character, great world. You know, urban fantasy. The characters been around a long time, and yeah, really grabbed me. I mean, I prefer you know, epic fantasy or high fantasy as probably my favorite subgenre of fantasy. But this book was, well, this series is just so well written and enjoyable. I had to put it on the list. I mean, I really thought when I started making the list that it would be 5 high fantasy books, but these people pushed their way in. Bob. Oh, I didn't even realize that. All the Bobs.
All the
Apparently, I
Bob,
love Bobs as writers.
apparently.
And then J.M. Posthumous.
Nice. So both of you had Path of War as your number 2. And so
Nice.
what's that?
So nice.
Yeah, I can only go so far to be nice to David.
Yeah. So
Couldn't make him
I'll
number
go
one.
over my number 2 and then we'll unveil our number 1s. But my number 2 is a book that I've been raving about since I read it, and it's Demon Kiss by J.D. Blackrose. And yes, it's surprising that it is number 2 on my list and not number 1 because I really, really love this book. I think this book is perfect. It is so well paced. It is so interesting. The characters involved in this book are so well thought out, well designed. The paranormal aspects, the urban aspects, all of it makes so much sense and fit together so well. It is a great Kickstarter into a very interesting trilogy that is now being extended past a trilogy. But this book, it really does have a carries very good emotional weight. It's just well written enough to where you feel like it fits what is going on, and even though it can be ridiculous and sublime at times, you feel like, yeah, that's how it would have gone, you know. And to have that power, especially for someone who reads these things and knows plot pretty well, and that I kind of figure everything out at the beginning of everything that I'm dealing with, whether it be books or movies, to go along with it and just let it go the way that it's supposed to go. Very powerful writing, and that's why it made my list, and it had to be here. It was going to be on here the moment I finished it. I knew that this would make my list this year, as I did with Black Flames as well. And so Demon Kiss by J. Blackrose is my number 2 book of 2022. Which then you have to say to yourself, well, number 1 must be pretty fucking good if I have a lot to say about number 2. We'll get to that in a moment, because now it's time for Madilynn Dale's number 1 book of 2022, which is kind of, is it an anthology, or is it kind of like it's a weird, interesting concept, right?
Yeah. So the book, The Summoning, it's not an anthology, but it was put together by 8 different authors. So there's 4 characters told from 4 different points of view, and each author does one person's point of view. And all of them are authors. They've been they had this special publisher reach out to them to invite them to come to a writing retreat and do a short story contest, and the winner gets a certain amount of money, and it's like, you know, all of them are the broke, starving artist kind of like trope. So
that's in this book. That's within this book.
Yes. And the short stories that they all create are all created by another 4 different authors that are not writing the person that is writing the story. And the way this all came together, you can't even tell that many authors put work into it. It just flows. And they're addicting characters. There's one character that's the main, like, trouble pot stirrer, shit pot stirrer. There's gore, there's fighting, there's drama and death. And it's just like, and then demons appear, and like, it's like the best horror novel I have ever read. Not a dull moment, fast pace, action almost every time you turn around. And it's just, I was blown away, because normally I don't read horror stories. It's
Mhm.
not normally my genre because it messes with my brain and makes me have nightmares. But this one, holy cow. So glad I picked this book up.
This is like when I read about it and everything, it was very interesting to me to hear about it. It's like I'm a big fan of movies that break the fourth wall.
Hmm.
I've never seen a book break the fourth wall though. That's kind of interesting. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a book within a contest within a book. Very cool. I love that concept. It's very neat.
Yeah.
I definitely picked it up as soon as I read about what it was. So hope I'll read it here soon. But well, who am I kidding? I'll read it probably 10 years.
When you
But
get to it.
yeah, but because 2023 is coming up, and now I have to read 2023 books. But
Yeah.
I do have a little bit of a break so that I can read some books and for my enjoyment, and I'm hoping that's one of them. So, all right, Mr. Lar, your number one book of 2022, The Grey Throne.
Yes. It was A Grey Throne by Michael K. Falciani, the second book in The Raven and the Crow. And to set some background, so getting involved in the GoIndieNow network, I've met, of course, many authors from being on shows. And the same is true of doing some other, promotional shows, trying to promote my work. And I was on a panel with this author, Michael Falciani, and he was so unbelievably nice, like Pollyanna-ish. Like I thought, I got to read this guy's book because it's just going to be people getting along, and agreeing, and it will be the most boring thing ever. And it turns out he was acting for that panel, and he is not that nice of a person at all, which I prefer, frankly. And the book is great, classic fantasy stuff without being boring. I mean, a lot of fantasy, and particularly indie fantasy, and I consume much of it, especially on Kindle Unlimited.
Mhm.
It's like you're just reading the same story.
Yeah.
I mean, very comfortable. And it's fine with me. I don't hate that because it's like, the returning to the warm embrace of characters and a story you already know. However, Michael's book, or series, I should say, Michael's series is not that. There's plenty of exciting new stuff. And yeah, that's true. So anyway, I'm a big fan. It was a shock at how great it was. And um, I feel very lucky to have had in my particular favorite subgenre two amazing books to read this year that were by people I know, which only magnifies the enjoyment for me. I
Nice.
mean, because I'm sure all of you have had the same thought. You know somebody, and then you read their book, and you're like, "What am I gonna do when it's a piece of shit?" And then I have to talk to them and be like, "The way you wrote about trees was awesome." You got to come up with some bullshit thing to say, but it is very rewarding and heartwarming to read stuff that people wrote and really love it.
Hmm.
So
Awesome. S- that is really cool to have that aspect of it. But, to connect with the person that you enjoy what they do, and so that's pretty cool. Speaking of which, my number one book of 2022 is The Ghosts of Grief Hollow. It is the third book in this world. It is a sequel to the first book of this series, and I've read all three. And this is by Sean Burgess, and it is a YA horror. I mean, it's not YA for them. I mean, it's just got teens in it, but it's not YA because it is graphic. But it is a horror thriller. Uh, it follows a group of now teens. When they were younger, they came across a skinwalker and had to battle the skinwalker to save their town. And now the skinwalker is coming back for revenge in this book. And there's a whole subplot that goes underneath all of that, and the origin story and everything interesting about it. I I will be candid and say the Tear Collector, which is the first book that is inside of this world, but not nearly as involved with these two books as the Hollow books are. There was some missteps in those books for me. So when I got this book, I was happily surprised to see that one of the things I really appreciate about indies who really want to do this is that they take the constructive criticism that they receive and they take it to heart and then they improve upon it. And I really feel like, I mean, not that I'm the be all end all critic for Sean Burgess, but what I told him about the Tear Collector, I didn't see that in this book at all, which I thought was really interesting. This book is so fucking well written. It'll grab you right from the beginning. If you've never read the other books, it doesn't matter. This book goes, as much like Path of War, goes into a lot of recapping, so you'll be able to grasp what is really going on right away. And this book is so amazingly interesting. It switches POVs, which normally for a lot of books would get you in trouble. This book, it does not get you in trouble. It keeps you going. It keeps you guessing. And it just goes from beginning to end. The end is wow, mind-blowing. I was upset at the end. So if you get me upset about the end, you've done your job, I think, as a horror writer, because I did not want it to end the way it ended. But boy, this book just really has everything in it. The characters are well defined, well structured. The antagonists and the ghosts and the paranormal entities involved in this are well thought out, well orchestrated, and well defined in their origin stories. I mean, this book is just amazing. I mean, I absorbed this book quicker than I've absorbed any book in the last 5 years. It is really an amazing, amazing read, and I highly recommend it. It is The Ghosts of Grief Hollow, is book 2 in the Return to Grief Hollow series. And the way they ended it, I'm really looking forward to a 3. Hoping that he does a 3. He doesn't have to. That's the cool thing. It's like, you could end it here and it'd be all right. But there was a little sentence at the end that made me think, okay, there's going to be a 3, which is really cool. I think that's a real powerful tool. I like when authors do that. This is just clever. It's just very, very inventive, and I really enjoyed it. So that is my number 1 book of 2022, The Ghosts of Grief Hollow. So, all right. So now I'm all by myself, all alone on this island. JD, did you want to talk about any books or anything real quick?
I can give like a really quick,
please,
rapid fire 2-minute, a book. I read a bunch of books this week, this year, in terms of poetry. If you're looking for horror poetry, Anita Stewart, A.F. Stewart, she has Poetry of Monsters and Madness and Horror Heart Haiku Padu, which I actually enjoyed both of them. Anais Charchenko released a very short but very cool collection called Accidentals. Honorable mentions, if you're looking for something for your kids, in Spanish, there's Sam Satito, which is Sam the Stray, about a stray dog that it's adopted. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of real, which was really refreshing. Byron the Bee Who Couldn't, by Greg. I just know Greg. I'm blanking on his last name. Greg and I did this children's book about a cute little bee. Summoner of Sleep from A.I. Winters is horror. The thing is that the first half for me really rocks. The second half, there's a couple of stumbles, but it ends pretty well. I was surprised by Spirits and Chai by D. Allison Howlett. That was a cozy, romantic little book. Try to imagine Hallmark with a little bit more substance and ghosts. Cuando me movieron la losa, which would be When They Moved the Slab or Tiles, etc., by Brenda Diaz. This book kept me company while I was flying, and I was very nervous, and it kept me laughing. And I read the entire back half of that. It's from a fellow Puerto Rican author. I hope that she translates that. Fable Passages by Margaret Pennard. I'm doing a reread because I better read the book, and now I'm reading the book. Enjoying it again. And Catarina Freitas y el Anillo Perdido, which would be Catarina Freitas and the Lost Ring by Raymond Volmont. That kid keep an eye out for that guy. He's doing great work in Puerto Rico. Super proud of him. Really hope that he translates that work. If you like Harry Potter and you speak Spanish, dive in.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm on the island of loneliness with indie films, and so here are my top 5 indie films for you of 2022. And just to let everybody know, Madilynn has her blog up for her full top 10, which I should have followed that instead of following her list that she gave me in the chat, because then I would have known the right order to go in. But because she numbers those in there, and so she has all her top 10, and she goes into depth about her book, the books she likes there. So everybody go check that out. That's at thechaptergoddess.com. And then I also at Fresh Butter Popcorn have I have my top 10 albums up, 10 through 6 in honorable mentions. I will do the same for books and movies here soon this week, and then you'll get an in-depth review of I will do every single one of the top 5 on each of these categories separately, so you get a real in-depth view of all 5 of what I'll dig deep into all of them. So look forward to that. So my top 5 indie films of 2022. My number 5 is a Japanese film called Missing. This is a very, very interesting film. It follows 3 perspectives in 3 different stories, and it centers around a young girl's father who leaves her, and she goes chasing for her, and then she stumbles upon a serial killer's uh, uh, journey. And we get all 3 journeys. We get the father, the daughter, and the serial killer. And the ending will just you'll just be like, okay, fuck this. I'm not watching another movie ever again. It's just like, wow, that is so cool. It was really great. It's a really great film. You have to get over subtitles. Just gonna have to deal with it, everybody. But really, truly, this film has such a wonderful way of coming together through the 3 perspectives, and it's just designed very, very well. And I really, it's a long movie, but it goes by quickly, and I really enjoyed absorbing it. And I've watched it twice now to absorb it, because there's some things in there you'll miss the first time. And it's just going to happen because there's so much going on, even within a 2.5 hour frame. So Missing is my number 5. My number 4, you know what? Everybody's been talking about this movie on A24 called X, which is you can get out there. I think it's on Showtime or something like that right now. It's the revival of the 80s horror genre, and it's kind of a parody, a homage of the 80s genre. But I'm gonna tell you right now, that movie pales in comparison to the weird and uniqueness of Honeycomb, which you can get on the Slam Dance channel. It is available there, so I put it on my list. I had a real hard time with this list this year, because there's movies that I want to put on this list, but they're not available to you all yet, and I don't want to do that to you. I don't want to give you a movie that I would put on this list that you can't see yourself. So I'm holding on to those till they get their distribution out there, and hopefully that'll be next year, because there's 3 or 4 movies I really wanted to put on this list that I couldn't. Honeycomb is out there on Slam Dance channel. Yeah, it is exclusively on Slam Dance channel, and you have to pay for the subscription, which is I think $10. But it's well worth it, because there's a ton of great stuff on Slam Dance. If you're a cinephile and an indie movie fan, Slam Dance channel has everything you would want. It has different genres, different ideas. It has short films. It has inclusive films. Very good. Honeycomb is this weird. It's like, I imagine Wet Leg doing the soundtrack to her next film. It is weird. It is crass. It is interesting, and it follows 5 women who are basically on this Lord of the Flies mission, where they try to create their own society in this little wooded area. They find this little cute little house, and they create their own society and create their own rules, and the rules take over them, precedence over them, and people die because of it, and it's very interesting. So I definitely recommend checking it out. If you're not into weird shit, you might not like this as much. It's not a conventional horror film. It is weird, avant-garde, and I'm into that stuff, as evident by my pick from last year, you'll have to go back and watch last year's, which is Lamb. So if you've seen Lamb, you liked it, you'll like Honeycomb. That's all I'm going to say about it. My number 3 pick surprised the fuck out of me. I have not laughed this hard since Clerks. This movie is that funny. It's called Salesman. Number 3. It's available on Amazon Prime for free. It is fucking hilarious. It is outrageously stupid in its premise and just outlandish. But in some respects, I would say the same thing about Clerks. But it's very, very intelligent in the way that it designs the humor and goes through the characters. You get everybody's arc in this movie, and it's very interesting, very funny, and I just love the hell out of this movie. I highly recommend it. If you see any of these movies on this list, which I hope you see all of them, but this one's free if you are a Prime member, I would go seek it right now. It's a short movie, and it's funny as all get out. I really, really enjoyed it. So Salesman, my number 3 pick of 2022. My number 2 pick was another surprise for me. It's a movie called Dylan and Zoe. You have to pay for it on Prime. I don't think it's on any of the other streaming services. It might be. You can get it on YouTube and stuff like that. This is a very interesting movie about a friendship, a 20-year friendship, a relationship between 2 platonic friends. And yes, it goes exactly where you think it's going to go, but it goes there in a weird and interesting way. And it is just, for millennials out there, I think you'll really relate to it a lot because it's a lot about issues mindfulness and taking care of yourself and a lot of personal issues. If you're an introvert, I think you'll really dig this movie because it's about being introverted in a lot of respects as well. And so it is just a really, really it's the best written movie on my list by far. It is just an amazing it's one of those talking head indie films. It's very indie, but it's very enjoyable. I never was lost. I was never felt like I had any boredom in the conversations, and their deep conversations and long conversations. And it's just 2 shots between the 2 of them often, but it is a very, very well thought out film, and I really, really enjoyed it. My number 1 film was always going to be my number 1 film as soon as I saw it in 2022, and that's 18 and a Half. It is the movie it is the fictionalized version of what would happen if somebody found the tapes, the Richard Nixon tapes during Watergate, the tapes that were recorded in the White House, and what they would do with it and what would happen. And it becomes this kind of espionage, thriller, weird, romantic, interesting film that has a lot of not so nice endings to it, but it is just like the production value of this film, for as little a budget as it had, the directing in this film is absolutely stellar. The acting is absolutely amazing. This movie is the adventure movie of 2022 for me. I mean, it takes place in the 60s, and it feels like the 60s the entire time. There's never a dull moment, and it pretends to be a spy thriller masked within a comedy, but it is so much more. And I really, really love this film. It was my favorite film the moment I saw it, and I said, this is probably going to be my favorite of 2022, and it did not disappoint. I really, really enjoyed that film. So that is my top 5 films of 2022. JD, you said you want to do some rapid fire, or is that for the books?
No, I already did the books for the games. We're going long, and rather than go in depth, I can do a rapid fire for the video games that I played.
Yeah, please.
They're not from 2022. They're from all around. So number 5, I did review most of these games on the GoIndie blog. So by all means, if you like if you want to learn more about these, go to the blog. There's a lot more information. First off, Spiritfarer, a game that made me cry multiple times. Good game to relax, beautiful graphics, gameplay and controls are better than what they use for in the game. It's like, man, you guys could have done more stuff, but it's a game that really invited me to go for 110% level completion. I just wanted to do everything I could in that game. And I just didn't want to say goodbye. Number 4, Yoku's Island Express. If you want something, a palate cleanser, this is a pinball platformer hybrid. That doesn't sound like it makes sense. It makes total sense. It is super fun, super quirky, super cute, and I've played video games for so long that when you encounter something that just rewires how you have to think about something and how you have to go from point A to point B, found it fascinating. Number 3, Inside. This should be a movie adaptation. This game, controls are precise, graphics are spot on, storyline is vague enough and leaves you with enough mystery for you to go like, what the hell is going on? And it does not disappoint. At the ending, it just ends and you go like, and I don't get that often in a video game. So I was super pumped with that. Number 2, I'm still playing this. It's Hades. If you want to know what good dialogue reads and sounds like, play this game. And stellar voice acting. Play this game. Controls are top notch. It is. Try to imagine a combination between Kung Fu from original Nintendo. It had certain levels and then it repeated. You're going to have to pass this game several times to get all the information. And seriously, I'm 80 or 90 hours into this game, easy. And the dialogue still is not repeating, which is insane. Graphics, control, everything is great, but the storylines, the little subplots, and the dialogue, and the personifications of the gods, and the spins that they give to Medusa, to Hades himself, to Hermes, Athena, Dionysus was super fun. Sisyphus is super fun, and a lot of these characters from Greek mythology. It is just brilliant, and I'm not surprised that won Game of the Year. I think it was 2021 or 2020. And number 1 is Hollow Knight. When it comes to a masterclass in video gaming, I can't believe this is an indie game. The level of polish in terms of control, in terms of level design, in terms of graphics, in terms of music. The music is stunning in this. The entire soundtrack I recommend. And another game, and you can pass most of the game and 100+%, but if you want to test yourself as a gamer, that game will bust your balls. Can an average person finish it? Yes, it's not easy and it's never easy. If you get lazy at any time, you're gonna die, and you're gonna die often. That said, seriously, I finished the game, and like 2 weeks later, I found out that the sequel is coming, and I can't wait for that. And I also found out that the sequel for Hades 2 is coming, and I can't wait for that either. So all those games, chef's kiss with a smile.
Just so make everybody aware too, I'll put all the links to everything we talked about today in the description. I'm sure everybody's already going out and exploring, but for those of you who come in later, I'll have the links there for you. At the time, I can't do it while we're live. That's the only reason why I didn't do it now. And I didn't want to spoil the surprise for anybody who was watching live by putting them in there. So my plan was always to do it at the end. But just real quickly to let everybody know, we're not done for 2022. We do have some more content to provide you toward the end of the year as well. One of which is tomorrow night's season finale of Mean Reviews, No Stars Given. Ron L.R. is joined by Grant Ayers, right? That's who it is, Grant Ayers?
Yep.
Right? And they're going to, do some reviewing and some talking and some fun. You all love that show, so I don't have to pimp it too hard. And we really appreciate that you do love it. And for those of you who've never seen it, what are you waiting for? Go. What's wrong with you? Also, if none of you have ever not seen Character Driven, get on that, because that's a great show by Madilynn Dale, and she just wrapped up her season this week. And we've got so much great programming out there, so much great stuff. We got more coming. I have some Words That Kill still to produce and put out there. And 3-Act Structure is going to end its second season. Yeah, I think it's the second season before the year is over as well. So we have all that going on. And then along with that, we have 3 lovely, lovely humans that you need to check out all their stuff. They're always in my top 5 every day, all day long, because I love them so much. And they're so amazing, and they do so much for GoIndieNow. And I'm so happy to have them here with me today. So, Mr. Estrada, tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
Right as I'm taking a sip.
Yeah, I did the good old waiter trick.
Reasonable Humans, you can find me on YouTube, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Facebook, you can, well, on Twitter for now. and on Instagram. I do have I have an account on TikTok. I haven't uploaded anything. I don't know if it's going to get banned. I don't know if I'm going to do anything. You can also read me on the Go Indie Fresh Butter Popcorn blog. 2023, you know, it should have more plans. For this year, I was only able to publish 1 book, which is the all-English version 2020 of my bilingual collection 2020. It was an interesting exercise because I realized that I don't write in Spanish. I write in Puerto Rican, and text translators do not understand that one bit. And just having to wrap my head around that was super interesting. For next year, I really hope that it's going to be as busy as I expect it to be. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, sir. All right, Miss Dale.
So, guys, I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Links to all of that, you can find them on my website. Oh, gosh, I'm off with my pointing today. It's also got links to all of my books. I have quite a bit scheduled to drop next year, starting in January. I have a story in an anthology that's supposed to drop called Deals in Blood. I don't have the date for that yet, but Blue Flames is going to drop on January 31st. So pre-order and cover reveal should be coming up this week. So you can hop on over to my Facebook group or first dibs to all of that in my newsletter on my website as well. But I loved being a part of GoIndieNow this year and getting to do all of this with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. I've met a lot of great authors and read a lot of great books, and I hope to add even more of indie content to my list in the coming year. So,
yeah, she's not going anywhere. Everybody,
nope.
Don't worry about it. I won't let her. She has to stay here. So she's going to be doing a lot of stuff for us in 2023 as well. So
yes, it's going to be a busy year.
All right, Mr. Lore.
Hello. You can find me in my garden normally. But my books are all on Amazon. I have my fantasy series, the Cataldi Chronicles. I have my humor science fiction novel, You Get What You Steal, that I wrote with Robin Burchett. And then next year, my big book that's coming out is my Cataldi Chronicles anthology that a lot of GoIndieNow authors are contributing stories to that take place in that world. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully there'll be a sequel to You Get What You Steal, and it will be You Get What You Something. You know, I just don't know which one it'll be yet. And then, of course, there'll be another season of Mean Reviews, No Stars Given. The season 1 finale is tomorrow, but then in January, we should be starting the next season with some help from Joe. And then, pardon me. And then I hope to have more shows next year. I have lots of plans. Nice. So as well as giant plans for the garden. So nice. Next year will be hopefully much better and much busier year.
Nice. And I'm Joe Compton. This is GoIndieNow. You found us. Yes, smash that like button and subscribe. We reached over 1,000 subscribers this year, which was a really awesome goal to attain, and we attained it with weeks to spare before the year was over. I reached a personal goal this year as I make my my 48th rotation around the sun, and in its last hours of my 48th rotation, as I head into year 49 of my life. I was able to walk 3 million steps before the year was over, and I'm closing in on 3,500,000 for the year. So that's pretty cool. I'm real excited to have attained that personally. It was a personal goal of mine. And to put more stuff out there, not just Go Indie Now, but Joe Compton stuff. I do have plans to make some movies and also put some books out there and some stories out there, and hopefully all of that will come true in 2023 for me. I will work hard to do so, and hopefully you all keep me on point with that. I depend on you to kick me in the ass when I'm being not so great at being Joe, instead of just being Go Indie Now. But this journey has been amazing. This year has been amazing. These people are amazing. You all are amazing in the comments. And I really, really think you guys make this all happen. And we're very, very happy to bring it all to you. I thought for an interesting exercise, because this will go really badly because we didn't rehearse it and I didn't tell anybody. But I thought maybe at the end of the count of 3, we all say the magic words together.
Okay.
All right, y'all. Well, Madelynn's going to be the one that ends it at the end because she's delayed. 1, 2, 3. It is
It's
always
always time to go
Go
Indie
Indie Now.
Now.